Last November, I was asked to perform on the score for the upcoming DreamWorks film, Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken, which comes out in theaters today. I'm not going to spoil anything about the movie, but I do want to talk about the recording process and what it was like running my harp through effects on the soundtrack. These are all the effect pedals that I used on harp that made it into the final score. I worked with the film's composer, Stephanie Economou, who recently won a Grammy for her work on Assassin's Creed Valhalla, to create some of the sounds and the textures that you'll hear in the music when you go see the movie.
I'm Steph Economou, and I'm the composer of Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken. I happened upon one of Emily's videos when I was perusing the Instagrams. I think she was promoting the release of the H90. That was a coincidence because I was also looking into the H90 at the time. I went to her YouTube page, and I think the second video I saw was her in-depth showcase of a fart pedal. I just knew after that I had to work with this person. And I think we just really hit it off. When I was hired to do Ruby Gillman, I was so excited by the script. I was excited by the idea of being able to design and craft a unique atmosphere and what this underwater world was going to be like from a sonic perspective. So I had this idea early on that I wanted to explore dream pop and shoegaze and like cinematic synth pop. Emily was such a perfect fit into that world because of her and Russ's exploration with pedals, modulation effects, their perspective on music and their taste especially, I felt just really aligned with my own. I truly believe that they helped define the sound of the score.
Steph would send me some of the pieces she was working on, which sometimes included a written out harp part, and sometimes it wouldn't. For the parts that didn't have exclusively written out harp parts, I had some freedom to improvise and to give Steph some options of what I thought might work. Then Russ and I would take my harp parts and we would reamp them through effect pedals that we thought might fit the context of the piece.
The amount of pedals that are used on this score is freaking wild. The main reason I wanted to work with Emily not only is her musicianship, but also a lot of her videos that she posts online are just such a great resource for composers. And I discovered a lot of pedal effects that I now have too, that I explore on my own. It basically helped me find the sound of the score.
There's a track in the film called Grandmama, which is also the name of a character voiced by Jane Fonda. And this is the part for Grandmama that Steph sent me. And here's what it sounds like without effects. The first pedal I sent this through was the UA Dream for some spring reverb and some amp-like textures, which sounds like this. Then I sent it through the Old Blood Noise BL44 for some reverse sounds. And then I sent it through the Hologram Electronics Microcosm for some nice ambient textures. And here's what all of that sounds like in the final score. This next track is called Ready to Train, and this is a line that I improvised. I sent that line through the Chase Bliss Thermae to add some delay. Then I ran it through the Chase Bliss Habit to add some glitchy textures. And the next line I played was something that Steph had scored out for me, so this lead line here. And for that, I used the microcosm again. Here's what all of that sounds like in the final version of Ready to Train.
There was a particular motif that I wanted specifically to be electroacoustic harp. it's this really cool moment that happens a few times in the film when Ruby turns into a giant kraken underwater. There's this bioluminescence that just lights up along her tentacles, and I really wanted that to be a sort of musical sound design, like a sonic signature. So I went to Emily and I said, listen, I want it to be mysterious. I want it to be intriguing. I want it to not necessarily sound like anything else in the score. And Emily and Russ just kind of went in and they made this sort of grab bag of different motifs and totally different pedal effects. And I ended up spending hours just trying to design the right thing with all of these brilliant ideas that they came up with. And ultimately what's in there, I think, is just a really unique thing that pops up in a few times in the film. That was a really fun one to just kind of give creative license to Emily and Russ to try a few things out, and we sort of saw what stuck.
Ruby's signature bioluminescent sound started with a harp part that sounded like this. Then we ran it through the Eventide H90 to make it sound like this. And you'll also hear some other H90 textures within that sound. Here's what that final sound sounds like.
The exploratory sense of all of this, I think, was the most exciting part of the process for me. Even though we were working remotely, we were able to accomplish something really unique. There was a lot of, let me try this on this, and I'll give you the dry signal, and then I'll give you a bunch of different pedal effects that I think might be cool, and then figuring out what worked best and me pulling it in here, and then also, doing effects on top of that too. It honestly was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be, and I do think that comes down to just like taste and similar creative sensibilities that I think Emily and Russ and I kind of found this common ground there. I was lucky to have them come out to LA and was able to show them some of the visuals because it is so colorful and bright and just wonderful. We got to record the orchestra at Abbey Road, which was obviously incredibly unforgettable. We recorded like a really big string brass woodwind section and choir and percussion as well. We were there for about a week. It was really nice because I had Emily in there with all of her harp. I had John in there with all of his guitars, percussion, Ari Mason who did vocals. So I had all of these things just in everybody's headphones at Abbey Road. So it was this really wonderful moment of it all coming together, and it was special, and I hope everybody else thinks it's special.
Steph sent me the harp's lead line for Kingdom of the Kraken. And the first pedal that I reached for is one of my favorites. It's the Old Blood Noise Dark Star. And I also sent it through another Old Blood Noise pedal, Sunlight. And then I sent it through the Vangon Ultra Shear. And finally, I sent it through Microcosm.
This is a bit of an inside look into Kingdom of the Kraken. I'm going to isolate some of Emily's harp stems so we can hear what's happening. You can hear that beautiful dark star and microcosm effects on the harp lead, which I'm mixing with synth keys, leads, and eventually bells. And as you can see, there are probably upwards of 20 odd harp tracks layered with one another. So those are the harps and the guitars and the vocals and the synths and how they're interacting with one another. There's a ton of 12-string guitar to give that sort of bright sound. Probably 25 to 26 layers of vocals. Probably about 28 layers of electroacoustic harp in here. And they're all doing slightly different things. A lot of use of the microcosm, which I thought was kind of this like golden key to the sound of this film. There's just something about a lot of those effects and how they dialed it in that just made it feel like it's all underwater. We have Skylar that's like playing the lead. There's Sunlight, Thermae, Polyphrase, Unusual EAS, which I absolutely love the sound of. And I just put like a high pass filter on it and just sort of create this kind of like fuzz effect with it. All of these harp layers, I mean, it gives it this really special quality. It gives it this sense of depth and richness and color. And that combined with these intertwining layers of loads of guitars, a lot of synths, a lot of like vintage synths and analog synths as well. I'm using the Juno 60 a lot on the score, plus like a lot of sort of retro kind of almost 8-bit sound stuff. And the orchestra as well.
So let's go back to the top, and now that we understand how all of those solo parts are interacting with their respective effects, let's see how that blend works when we add in all of the symphonic elements for the final mix.
I hope it makes people feel like what it feels like to be underwater and discover this magical kingdom there. It's a special moment in the film, and I hope the music kind of helped bring it to life.
This track is called Ruby Takes Control, and here's the line that Steph sent me. It says, try option on harp, lo-fi, warbly, dream pop. And so, of course, I started off with the Chase Bliss Generation Loss. And then I added the Copper Sound Polaris for some fast vibrato. And then to add some reverb and a little more vibrato, I used the Von Gogh Ultra Shear. And all three of those were run in parallel in the final score, which sounds like this. You'll also hear some other harp and pedal sounds throughout the film, like this, and like this. And there's a lot of other tracks that I performed on as well. I hope you enjoyed this little inside look on how I was a part of the Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken score. Thank you so much to Steph for making this happen and for giving me, honestly, an unforgettable experience working together. Thank you so much to DreamWorks for making this movie. And I can't wait to see it.
You know it's out today, right? It's out right now.
It's June 30th.
Let's go.